Welcome, Happy New Year. Thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ted Hill. I'm the head of school here, and it's a great pleasure to have 4 of our alumni with us to first share some of their experiences with you, and then at the end to answer some questions. We are also using an app to auto-translate from English into Korean. So the panel and the discussion here will be in English, but the Korean translation will appear on the screen. It's conceivable that there will be technical difficulties, and if there are, we ask for your patience as we try to resolve them. So why don't we start out by having our panelists introduce themselves, maybe state your name, of course, and what year you graduated, and where you're going to school, and what you're majoring in, if you've already decided that.
Hello, my name is Edward Hyunjin Yoon. I graduated in class of 2024, which is 2 years ago. I'm currently attending Yonsei University, and my major is economics under Underwood International College. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Lauren Ham, and I graduated in 2017, so that was 9 years ago. I graduated from Ewha Women's University after graduating from Chadwick. My major was international studies, and I'm currently applying to law schools in the US. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Kim Tae-hyun. I went to UChicago, University of Chicago. I graduated Chadwick in 2020, and I graduated UChicago just this past June, and I majored in economics.
Hello everyone, my name is Justin. I'm in the same class as Edward. Graduated 2024, and I went to NYU Tisch for film and television, and currently in the military, so not studying at the moment, but yeah.
That's why you're wearing the hat. Great. Well, thank you all and welcome. As you look back on your time at Chadwick, is there an opportunity or experience that helped you develop your leadership abilities?
Since I'm the oldest, I'll go first. Actually, I think every moment at Chadwick was an opportunity to kind of envision yourself in a leadership position and also to train your skills. So I personally was in the student council. I was president at one point. I also went to Nepal service trip, and for that I also took some leadership roles in while trying to do a fundraiser. And I was also I played 3 sports, so I played volleyball, basketball, and soccer, and so I took on some leadership positions there as well. And so I think the good thing about Chadwick is that if you look for opportunities, there are like countless number of opportunities that will present to you. So my answer would be yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I also played a lot of sports as well, and I think that's where I bumped into the most leadership opportunities. And I think the good thing about Chadwick is that it's a smaller school, and I was kind of on the more introverted side. So even though you don't want to be put in a leadership opportunity, you're kind of forced into one, which is good, I think, both for your self-growth and kind of for college, I guess. So I guess it was good for me. Yeah, so I think I was JV captain at one point, but even if you're not like an actual leader, I guess like if you play sports, I think there's a lot of ways you can like act as a leader within like a sports team. That's like really beneficial.
Yeah, I think there are always a lot of chances in sports to become captains, but also I think more recently, I'm not sure how it was before, but through like the club system, there's a lot of chances for students to start their own clubs or lead the clubs they were in. And I led a club called CITV, and it was a leadership position, but for me, it didn't feel like extra work, or I was doing it for college. It was just something that I was really into, and I think there are a lot of chances for students to find something that they actually want to do and just start it as a club. And when I was there were, people just making, the innovation club, or there were a lot of strange clubs that people just made because it's something that they were actually passionate about. And for these clubs, the teacher, like the supervising teacher, kind of, I think most of the time just takes a step back, and it really allows students to, make the club what they want it to be and, lead it for themselves.
I totally agree with the three people, but I also want to emphasize that I think there are a lot of opportunities in Chadwick, but the most important part is that the students must seize those opportunities. So if the students do not engage in those kind of activities or clubs or any councils and just remain still, I'm pretty sure that Chadwick is not going to hand over those opportunities. So it's very important for all students to try to pursue what their passion is and what they want to take on leadership, so to make sure that they are able to earn from those opportunities and earn those leadership skills.
Great. Thank you all very much. I think those are really very insightful reflections. How well did you feel that Chadwick prepared you for the academic side of college?
I'll go first for this one. Currently, as I said before, I'm attending Yonsei University, and I had just finished my freshman year, my first year in college, and what I felt was that the courses that I took was very similar to how the courses that I took in Chadwick, such as writing essays, making presentations, or preparing for interviews with the professors. So those were all the academic stuffs and assignments that I have already done at Chadwick. So it was really easy for me to get good grades and get good impressions. So yes, I can totally say that Chadwick did prepare me to become an academic person in college as well.
I think that was a pretty good summary. I agree with it. Well, I wasn't the most studious kind of person. I'm a film major, but something about Chadwick is that you're kind of forced to write a lot of essays, and often under a really tight deadline if you consider all the different classes you take. And just the fact of writing essays really prepares you for college. I think a lot of college students seem unprepared when they're given all these essay writing assignments, but I see that Chadwick kids or people who took the DP, they really don't find it as challenging as other students.
I will say that I think on top of what our youngsters have introduced, I think IB is such a good program because I was the first graduating class to be doing IB, because 2016 they did AP, right? What I was mostly thankful for when doing IB was that it was intellectually very stimulating. It wasn't just about memorizing content or trying to just cram for an exam, but it was very engaging in that it asked questions that made me think, right? And that's the type of habit that you will need in order for you to success in college or throughout your life. And so the fact that Chadwick instilled that mindset within me to question things, not to accept it blindly, I think that did set me up for my future. And that's, I think, what motivated me to actually pursue law school. So not only was Chadwick helpful part of the journey in my life for college, but I think it made me into a better human being than when, before Chadwick. So yeah, thank you.
I can agree on what everyone else said. I think the best part about the IPDP program that Chadwick does is the essay writing skills that it develops for you, because in college you do really have to write a lot of essays. Since everyone else has said a lot of good things about the IBDP program, I do want to point out one possible downside of the IBDP program that I found when I went to college is that because it's mostly Europe-based, if you do choose to go to a US-based college, a lot of US-based colleges will not accept IBDP programs as college credit if you do not get like a 7. So if you get like a 6 out of 7, they will not accept it as college credit. So if you plan to like kind of get some college classes out of the way, to like maybe graduate early, if that's like maybe your daughter or your son's plan, maybe consider like taking some AP classes on the side is my advice. But I do think that in school, DP is really better than AP classes.
Thank you. What was your experience? All of you were involved in a lot of extracurriculars. How did you manage to balance your academics, the extracurriculars, and then just your overall health and well-being?
I was very sleep deprived because I was involved in so many different things, and I would, stretch myself thin. But I tried not to kind of like emphasize academics over other extracurricular stuff, because extracurricular is what nourished my heart and what made me happy. And I think, I was a student who just liked coming to school. I was in the school choir. I went to Hong Kong for the choir trip. I was in all 3 sports all throughout my high school years. I also was in so many different service clubs. I was teaching art to like students in Incheon. And so I think that motivated me to do better in academics because I wanted to keep a good standing. And so I think rather than like telling students to do better in academics, I think letting them find what makes them happy is the way that would get them to do better in school. And so I try not to think about academics, but I ended up fine. And all my teachers were super supportive. When I didn't do so well on a test, when I go to them, they would give me resources to kind of like, so that I can do some supplementary work so that I can do better on the next exam. And such a great thing about IB is that it's cumulative, right? So no one exam will determine your worth, right? And I think the atmosphere at Chadwick was so encouraging that I was able to gain and foster the love for academics. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you.
I just want to add one more from what our Lauren, Lauren told. I just want to say that how much the extracurricular activities that you do, the total amount of work that you have to do is not going to be such a big pressure to the students. I think the most important part is just to be well organized. So if you're well organized, even though the student does like 5 clubs and 2 councils and like all the athletics, I think it's totally fine to do all those activities with the school academics and school lectures, because it's just, if you organize them well, then I think it's going to be totally fine.
Something I also want to add to what Edward said. I think I also did a lot of stuff like 3 sports, clubs, student council, and I think most students feel pressured to do a lot of stuff because of, they know they have to submit these extracurriculars to college. But I think a lot of students, including me, do a lot more than they really need to because they feel the pressure of college applications. And you end up just doing things because you feel like you have to do them. Like, oh, I have to check off service, I'm gonna do a service club. Oh, I have to do sports, so you check off the sports section. And I don't think you really gain as much out of extracurriculars if you're not really genuinely into them. if you're just trying to add a line to your resume. And also for, if there are any parents of seniors, you might notice, but most of the seniors in our class, we had something called senioritis. So a lot of students do end up feeling burnt out towards their junior or senior year, and part of that is because of the pressure to fill out the list of extracurriculars on their application. But once you actually get to the stage of applying, you realize you can only put like 50 words per activity, and most people have to cut out activities they did because you can only fit 10, right? So just, I guess, a word of caution. A lot of people feel like they have to do a lot more than they really need to do.
Thank you all. How did the faculty, I mean, you alluded to it a little bit, Lauren. Can you talk a little bit about how the faculty supported you in your journey through and everything that you undertook?
So I have a lot to say about that because I was moving into IBDP without much preparation with the MIP. I've only gone through like 1 year of MIP because of the transition. And I took, all the IB courses, so 3 SLs and 3 HLs, right? When I first started econ, it just didn't make sense. I didn't do too well, right? But I was a high performer, so getting a score that didn't look too hot was very disappointing. And I went on a whole anxiety spiral, and I was like, should I stop doing IBDP? Can I do it? Am I intellectually smart enough to finish the IBDP? And everyone in the school was like, if you can't do it, nobody can. You can do it. And the principal at the time, Mr. Russert, he met with me and he was like, you'll be okay. You're just starting. And Mr. Reed, who was my econ teacher, was like, you can come in anytime during the break or after school to ask me any questions. We'll find a way. We'll get you there. And I wasn't even doing too bad. But I ended up, I graduated with a expected score of 7. I didn't finish the DP because I graduated early to go to university. 저 검정고시 보고 대학을 갔기 때문에 저는 빨리 갔거든요. 그래서 끝내지는 못했지만 어쨌든 expected score는 7까지 다 올릴 수 있었어요. 그래서 so I think without the support and without the belief that all the faculty members had in me, I don't think I would have been able to pursue IB to its full extent. So I'm so very thankful for everyone.
Yeah, so I think this might be kind of like off the question, but I think this is why Chadwick's office hour system is like one of the most significant systems in our school, because like other schools, like just Korean schools, there are not much opportunities to go talk to teachers and get assistance from like even like just beyond academic wise, like mental and physical stuff. So I think the students, when they utilize those office hours, it'll be such a great earn for their academic and also the entire Chadwick life. Yeah, Chadwick.
Thank you.
Actually, yeah, I agree with what Lauren and Edward were saying. For me, I think there were like 1 or 2 teachers that I could really go to whenever I had a question about my future or I was struggling in class, and just having those 1 or 2 trusted teachers, I think, really helped my life in high school.
Great, thank you. During your time at CI, did you feel it was necessary to go to Hagwons or to seek any kind of external support for what you were doing, or were you able to find it here, and what was that experience like? Because we know that all 4 of you and almost all of our students take on a very ambitious load of academics and co-curriculars. So did you need or did you take advantage of external support?
I think the majority of students at Chadwick do take Hagwons, but I didn't take any Hagwons while I was there, and I do have a couple of friends who went to those really prestigious universities who also didn't take any Hagwons. And my kind of stance on this is that since the IBDP is standardized, you really can all the resources are available online since it's standardized across the world. And the Hagwons, they're really just doing the same thing as those online resources. They have the textbooks and you just work through them. And I think a lot of students do go to these Hagwons, but I think what ends up happening is that it's a lot harder to learn how to study for yourself, which is what you would have to be doing once you get to college. And also going to these Hagwons, you kind of end up not caring as much about your classroom environment when your Chadwick teacher is saying the same thing as your Hagwon teacher. For me, it feels like I don't think it would help you prepare for college as much, but on the other hand, I do see that it helps students score better overall. That is one thing, but I would say that learning how to study for yourself with the plenty of resources that are available online would be my recommendation.
So I was the majority that Justin said. I was the one that went to Hagwons and took tutors for my academics. And I partially agree with Justin that it is very important for the student to learn about self-studying skills to be prepared for college. But I also think it's the problem of once again, it's a problem of organizing and time management. So as I said before, the entire study load is not that tough for the students to take. But as students are growing and they're not adults yet, they might procrastinate a lot and they might not be prepared enough. So I think Hagwons can be useful when it supports those students to push more into getting higher grades. But I don't think we should use the word necessary when we're talking about Hagwons and contests, because as Justin said, there are still some friends that also went to good colleges and got good grades without those Hagwons as well. So I think it's different from student to student.
I think to summarize it, I think it really comes down to internal motivation. If the student is internally motivated and they have the desire to do well regardless of external pressures, then I don't think it's necessary that you go to Hagwons, because I did not go to any Hagwons throughout my entire 5 years at Chadwick. And I was often the only one to get a perfect score on an exam. And it led to that because I just genuinely had fun studying. Doesn't mean that Hagwon cannot be helpful. I'm pretty sure most of my classmates went to Hagwons, but I think there are students who do well with external pressures and who do worse with external pressures. I personally don't like having external pressures. My parents never told me to go study. They said, just go to bed, I need you to be healthy, and that's all they really cared about. And I think it's to an extent important that, in a way, parents show that they believe in their child. I think, at least in my group of my classmates, students who had good relationship with their parents often were happier and they strived more, even in school. And so, I believe everyone has the potential to do really great things. And I think if you believe in your students, I'm sure they'll all, grow up to be amazing adults. So I don't think Hagwon is what matters. I think the belief and the validation that you give to your children, and that's what teachers try to give to the students as well. So I think that matters more, in my personal opinion, humble opinion.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. I also obviously agree with what everyone else said. I think my parents were always not a big fan of Hagwons either, so I didn't really go to Hagwons for schoolwork. But I do want to add that I do think if your child is planning to go to a US-based college, that they do go to a Hagwon for test prep, because test prep is a whole different game, and it's just a game. Like, it's just that, like, you need to learn how to play the game, and you don't learn that in school. And like hagwons will teach you that like quickly, and they know like the shortcuts. So like for that, I do recommend hagwon. And like you can just do that during like summer break. Like that's how I did it, and I think that's the most effective way.
Great. Thank you all. Can you talk a little bit about how and when you discovered your major interest that either led to your major or lead to your career, in your case, Lauren? How did that come about when you discovered what it was you were really passionate about?
I think for me, I'm a film major, so I like to make movies. That's what my dream is in life, to direct movies. And I think I decided around in 10th grade that that's what I want to pursue in college, and also hopefully for the rest of my life. And I think the kind of decision-making process I use for that is I kind of look back throughout my life until then and thought about what have I enjoyed doing consistently that I haven't given up on until now. And for me, that was filmmaking, and also because we had these filmmaking clubs at Chadwick since village school and middle school, and that was the one thing that I was consistently a part of. So that was my decision-making process. I think but it is very common for students to not know what they want to do even until their first or second year of college. And I think that's not something to be worried about. So that's a very common thing, and I see a lot of people figuring it out in college or in the third or fourth year, or even after graduating college, what they really want to do in life. So I think there is a lot of pressure to kind of decide on that one thing, but I think there are a lot of possibilities on a lot of routes that students can take.
I think I'm on a very different route than Justin, because I still don't really know what I want to do, even though I graduated. To be really honest, I think I only was an economics major because my favorite class while I was in Chadwick was econ. So when I started applying to college, I was really thinking about, because you just have to choose, I think it's better to choose a major and apply rather than going in as undecided. I think it's just better for your chances. So I just had to choose one, and I literally went to QS World Rankings, and there's like, if you guys know, there's like a major filter on there. So I just chose economics, and I just applied to like the top 5 schools there, and that's how I went to college. And I don't think it's a huge deal to apply as a certain major, because you can obviously change. It's not a big deal as Korean universities, because it's really, really easy to change. And I recommend, if your child is not sure, that they take their first year to really explore what they want to do.
Anyone else?
Korean universities, we're all international studies major because that's usually the path that we take. But I loved studying international studies because it's such a diverse topic. Even within international studies, there's international business and economics, international diplomacy and law, and so just studying about the diversity and social sciences, I think, what prompted me to pursue international.
Great, thank you. Excuse me. Did you consider, when you were in 8th grade, did you consider going to a boarding school? And if so, why or not, why not? And obviously, none of you chose to go to boarding school, but did you think about it? And then what made you decide to stay at Chadwick? And maybe you didn't even think about it.
So yeah, I'll be honest, yes, I did consider going to boarding school to the US, the mainland, because the main purpose to go in there was that I heard that there were greater opportunities to go to better U.S. universities when you go to a boarding school. And also I think it was peer pressure because some of the students from 8th grade to 9th grade said that they were leaving to a boarding school in U.S. So yes, I did consider. But what I talked with my parents while deciding to stay in Chadwick was that I think the most important part was not about academic-wise, but also my internal support and health that I can receive from my parents. And I personally think that if I left to U.S. back when I was grade 8, then I would have been so lonely, and I don't think that I would have been able to be academically this successful and also mentally this stable like right now if I had went to a boarding school. So yeah, I don't regret my decision on doing that.
I mean, I've had so many thoughts about leaving Chadwick. Every time I had like this internal problem, like, oh my gosh, I'm not good friends with my best friend anymore. You know, I'd be like, maybe I should go to boarding school. Maybe I should start fresh. But my parents were really against me just kind of giving up, right? And they were like, you can't just give up every time that you face a challenge. And they really wanted me to graduate because they thought that there was something to learn from seeing everything through. And I graduated in 2017, and we were the smallest graduating class. We had 49 students, so everyone else just went to boarding schools, right? But you know, we did really well as a class. My friend went to Harvard, like UPenn, and we were all so glad that we ended up staying because finally, when we graduated, we realized that there was value in just keeping, keep on going, just not giving up. That also had value. And I think looking back on hindsight, I realized that, although U.S. boarding schools could have given me opportunities that Chadwick may not have been able to, like such as going on trips to Washington, D.C. or something. But I don't think there's necessarily things that Chadwick cannot offer that other boarding schools can, because my cousins all went to boarding schools, and I'm glad I stayed.
Thank you. Else? Okay. Can you all talk a little bit about your college selection process? How did that go? How did you make the decision you did about the schools that you wanted to apply to? What kind of criteria did you have in sort of thinking and looking at all of your college options? Obviously, 2 of you in Korea, 2 of you in the U.S. How'd you go about making those decisions?
I think my decision-making process was a lot simpler than most students because I knew I wanted to go to film school, and I knew what the best film schools were, so I just applied to them, and I was very lucky to get in. But so I could kind of just decide where I thought the best school was. And when we were students, the only thing we really looked at, what I looked at, was the top 5, schools for this major, and just looking at the ranking. I think most students do that, or even without looking at the major, they just look at top schools in the U.S. or globally, which I think is a good starting point. But then once you get into your school, you're never thinking about what rank your school is, and that really doesn't matter once you're actually in college. The whole point of applying is to go to school where you want to go. So I think there are a lot of other factors that are often overlooked. I think location is kind of seen as like a backup thought for students applying, but I think that's one of the things that will impact your college experience the most. One of the most important things is, do I want to live in a city where it's really crowded and it's really noisy, or do I actually want to live in a countryside, and in the countryside where it's a lot more peaceful? And these factors people don't really think about, and they don't really know what they want because obviously we're in such a different environment from the US. But I think it's important to consider all of the factors.
So I was one of the few people who went to Korean university. I actually decided to stay in Korea after one of my close family member died. That's what really triggered me to stay in Korea. That was it. Because I was dead set on going to a university in the US, and everyone was really surprised that I was going to stay in Korea. And they were asking me, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? And so because I didn't want to delay any time, I took the 검정고시, because you can do KSCR and you get graduate like Korean, like something, but like graduate diploma or whatever. But I took the 검정고시 and I just wrote all the application with the help of our college counselors, and that's really all I did. And that was enough for me to get to a Korean university. And because I took the 검정고시, I didn't have the Chadwick kind of like background. So I guess I was the very few like people who started the the Korean university path from Chadwick. So yeah, the 2016 people, they went to college when I did. So I was like the first one almost to go. So yeah, it was just family, and I don't regret it, but I am going back to the US for law school. So, funny where life takes you,
Great. Thank you.
I think I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube. There's a lot of videos about like a day in the life of a college person, whatever, at Georgetown, blah, blah, blah. A lot of my cousins went to university in the US, so I listened to a lot of their advice. One thing I do recommend is that your child really apply for a early decision school, because I think it really boosts their chances of getting into what do you say? Yeah, like a 상향 school, like a higher than your reach school. I think it really boosts your chances of getting into your reach school. And I think most of the Ivies only have like early action. And UChicago had ED1, and UChicago really chooses a lot of people from ED1, and I think that's one of the big reasons why I applied to Chicago. So I really recommend that your child apply to a college for ED1, because it also makes the whole process end much quicker in December. So like the pressure is over quicker. So why not,
Thank you. Do you have anything to add?
I was the route that Lauren talked about, another route to go to Korean University. I didn't take 검정고시. I just graduated Chadwick. I did KSCR. 그리고 국내 학력 인정을 받아서, and then 수시로 대학을 넣어서, and then that's how I went to Yonsei University. So that's why I'm like a year late. So I graduated 2024, but I'm 2학번 in Yonsei University. And I did apply to US universities, and I did get accepted to US universities. But the reason why I stayed in Korea was that I wanted to make the most from the least that I invest. So, considering all the fees that would go into the U.S. universities and the output that I will receive from the input that I include, and comparing that from the ratio of the input that I include in Yonsei University and the output that I receive, I compared those two, and then I decided that Yonsei University has a way much higher input to output ratio. So that's why I decided to stay in Korea. And I just finished the first year, so I don't know if I'll regret this later after I graduate. But listening to Lauren and all those Yonsei alumni that I met who came from international schools to Yonsei University, I am certain that I won't regret later after I graduate later.
Great. Thank you all very much. In your transition to college, was there anything that surprised you? And do you have any words of advice for students graduating from Chadwick who are headed to college, or for the parents of children who will be graduating from Chadwick heading for college? Anything that, anything that jumped out at you that was surprising or that you'd like to share?
First of all, as I said before, I think self-studying is the most important part that students must be prepared, and that's the most different part, especially if the student has been going to hagwons and all the tutors back in Chadwick, because there are no academies for, especially US universities and also Korean universities, there are no hagwons. So I think that's the most important part. And then I think the most biggest transition was the culture that I have experienced. So I have been from Chadwick since grade 5. So I've been about 9 years in Chadwick. And then I moved directly to Korean University, which is a completely new environment. So about a month or two, I had to adapt to the new environment, which is kind of struggling, but I think it is totally manageable. I think the most important part is just that you are willing to adapt to this new environment. So you aren't being reluctant and considering that this new Korean environment is like the environment that I'm not involved in. I think you just have to keep pushing yourself into that new environment to belong in there.
I think something that I'm thankful for my parents for doing during my high school and throughout my whole life is they kind of just left me alone. They let me do what I wanted to do, and they didn't pressure me into taking a specific, major or study this or study that. That's something that I'm very grateful for, because in college, you're making your own decisions and you get to finally, live the life that you want. And a lot of students or a lot of my peers are kind of stuck in the mindset that they got from high school, which is what their parents gave them, and then they end up, carrying this on for a long time, and then they look back and they realize maybe this isn't what I want to do after all. So I think using high school as a time to kind of discover what you want to do for yourself, I think it really does help in college. And I think that's only really possible if you give your beloved child a little bit of space and a little bit of room to breathe. So that's what I would say.
I just want to say something really quickly. Remember we talked about how Chadwick presented all these opportunities. So if you were willing to take it, then you will be able to get it, right? So the world that I experienced when I was attending Chadwick, I didn't realize how big it was until I went to a Korean university, because most Korean people are very similar to each other. We don't do anything exotic or exquisite, We like to kind of live by the rules, and we like to stay within the lanes of the norm, right? And I think while that was liberating in a sense, because I wasn't this like weird Korean American kid, I started to long for the diversity. And I think that's what kind of motivated me to think about going to graduate school in the US, because I wanted to see the large sea again. And I think while Korean University did give me the opportunities that I'm very grateful for, I think there is more that you can experience by going to a university abroad. And I think that's a conversation for everyone. I think everyone should have that conversation within their household, whether they're okay with, like you have to look at it long term, right? Do you want your children to be happy in Korea, or do you want them to see the bigger world? But it really depends on the personality and the characteristic of the child. So I think it's something that everyone should kind of keep it on their back of their heads a little bit, because it is very different. In a sense, sometimes I think about what if I went to a college in the United States. Doesn't mean I regret it completely, but Yeah, I think that's something that we should all think about before making such prompt decisions.
Thank you. When things were hard for you in high school, maybe you were having trouble in a subject, or maybe you're having trouble with your friends, or something wasn't going right, or maybe you were just feeling unmotivated and burned out. How did you get yourself going, and how did you get yourself motivated and, back into the fray?
I think it was super easy because we had so many different events, right? We had like pajama day, like all these like weeks. I don't really remember because I graduated 9 years ago, but we had all these events that I was looking forward to. So even though I had like tests a few days later, I also had a sports event to kind of like look forward to. And I think having all that distraction really made it bearable. Even though I was challenging myself constantly, I was able to keep on going because it felt like a new day every day. And I think, having all these distractions isn't such a bad thing. It keeps you going. It keeps you from burning out completely. It refuels you. It rejuvenates you. And I think that's how I got through my high school years, just doing so many different things. I studied, and then when I got tired of studying, I played sports. When I got tired of playing sports, I would do service and all. Yeah.
Thank you.
On a similar note, I think that one of my favorite parts that kept me going was outdoor ed. And I think I was maybe one of the only ones who liked outdoor ed in my grade because no one really liked it, but I really liked it. I really liked outdoor ed and boom trip and all of that because I really liked being away from like the city without my phones and just being with my friends, and like I liked like having to like not think about anything else for like a week. Yeah, I think that was really nice. I think it's also really helpful to have like a short-term goal for yourself because it's like more realistic to keep you going rather than like something like, oh, like I want to be an astronaut someday. That's like so far-fledged and like in the future. So like something like, oh, like I want to get 3 7s this year, something like that. I think that was something that like kept me going. And also, I think my parents' encouragement. My parents, I think when I was in middle school, they were a bit more strict, but as I went into high school, they saw how stressed I was, so they kind of mellowed down a bit, and I think that really helped me become less stressed.
I think for me and a lot of people in my year, since we're all kind of going through the same struggle, especially if you're all taking similar classes, we end up studying together a lot. I went to this study cafe with Edward, this guy over here, a lot, and it was like 70% just talking, 30% studying, but my mom's over there. We went to the study cafe a lot, and we came back pretty late more often than not. But I think looking back, a lot of time was wasted on just talking about random things. But overall, I think for what it did for our mental well-being, just being together and just struggling together, studying together right before the day of a test, going through the whole syllabus together, it really helps. I wouldn't have lasted if I was trying to do it all by myself, but since I was with my group of friends, it seemed like no matter how tough it went, since we're doing it together, it was possible.
I mean, okay, so I mean, he's not wrong. Yeah. Anyways, what I want to finally add on to all three people is that I don't think there's a right or wrong answer because it's all different from every person how you relieve your stress and burden. But I just think that if you need to rest, you need to rest. If you are feeling too much of those pressures, I don't think that you should continuously push yourself and pressure yourself to do better. And I think there needs some time to just sit down and just look back at what you have done. So I think it's very important to give those resting times to the students, and also personally to the parents. What I want to tell all parents is that I think it's very important for the parents to stay next to the children and help them get back up by themselves. So I don't think the parents should drag their arms up to get up. I think the parents should sit down with them and then be next to them and care for them and let them have their backs on you parents so that the children can have the energy back to get up by themselves and keep going forward. Because if there's nobody to 등을 기댈 사람이 없으면 it'll be such a 너무 힘들 것 같아가지고 아이들한테. 그래서 that's one thing that I want to say. Thank you.
If you could do it all over again at Chadwick, is there anything that you would do differently?
One thing first of all, I would still go to ska with Justin because that was also a very good thing for me. And yes, I do agree that I wouldn't have gotten a better grade even though I didn't go to ska. And as I said before, opportunities for leadership and anything in Chadwick is not handed over, just gifted to the student. It's whether the student pursues and really tries to do it. So one thing I would change if I had went to Chadwick again is that I would have pursued a lot of stuff because I was really hesitant of doing something and trying something new in Chadwick because I was scared that if I fail, then all my friends and all my peers would make fun of me. And also, is this really the thing I want? Wouldn't this just be 귀찮아 if I do this? If I do this club, wouldn't this just give me too much a burden? I think you should just act before you think in Chadwick because that makes you more opportunities, that opens you more ways to do so. So yeah, so I think I did the least amount of activities among these four people. So what I just want to do different is just doing something, doing just whatever you want to do. If you just want to do something, just take into action. Yeah, just the Nike slogan, just do it. I think that's the thing that I want to do in Chadwick.
Honestly, I wouldn't change anything much, but I would try to worry less because I was a very anxious child growing up. I'm the 장녀, right? And all my family's pressures on this firstborn child. I was worried that I would disappoint my family, But although no one ever gave me that pressure, I just had it in me. And so I think if I had the opportunity to go back, I would definitely do it all over again because I'm proud of the resilient person I came to be after graduating Chadwick. But I would tell myself to just calm down a little bit and tell myself that everything is going to be okay and you are going to do well regardless of whether you worry or not, because the sun will rise, and even if bad things happen, it's okay. Just get back up. That's how life is, right? And so I think the most relevant message that I would like to give to any students would be to worry less and that everything is truly going to be okay. You have your parents, they have money. It's fine, you're gonna be fine. That's what I try to tell myself because, sometimes I feel like I'm all alone in this world. I have to take care of myself. I'm 28, what am I gonna do? But then I try to tell myself that, I'm doing the best I can. And worst case scenario, I'll be my mom and dad's butler. That's what I tell myself. And so I think that's the mindset that it's okay to have because, it's our parents, right? And so that's what I would tell myself, that it's okay. You don't have to worry about, all those stuff. You'll be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what Lauren and Edward were talking about. I think looking after having gone through a year of college and looking back at my high school experience, you gain a different perspective, and you really realize that you only get to have this high school experience one time in your life, and it's a very unique experience, being that young and being with this group of people that you really grew up with. So there is a lot of pressure being Korean, being at Chadwick. So I was also pretty anxious about what college I'll go to, and will I get in, or all this and that. But I think I would have told myself, just relax, enjoy myself more, go to that trip with your friends, which we did end up going to Japan, which I think was like one of my best memories. So go organize that trip with your friends, or go ask out a girl that this is more for students, but enjoy your social life. I think that's really overlooked during your high school life. So maybe not too much, but enjoy the social life that you do get.
I wouldn't change anything academically, but I think that I would try to take better care of my health, because I do think that I was too sleep deprived, so that did take an impact on my health a lot. And I did drink way too much caffeine. So I did think that I was gonna die at one point, because I was drinking like 5 cans of Monster a day. So that was really not good for me. So I think taking care of my health, I think that also caused like some health issues for me. So I think like sleep more, try not to be too stressed, which is like just me saying things. But I think being stressed when you need to be stressed and not being stressed when you don't need to be stressed is like a really good skill to have in life.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all very, very much. Now we have a few minutes. We can open it up to questions from our parents in the audience.
Thank you, everybody. This was really helpful. I just have 2 questions. So one is, so during the college admissions process, what do you think is one of the things that made you stand out or differentiate from the other applicants? And how did the Chadwick's faculty help you shape those strengths?
I think this is completely different from US and Korean. Korea, first of all, is just academic scores. IB scores, SAT scores, TOEFL scores. Scores are the ones that stand you out. US schools is the essays and the extracurricular activities and the stories that you have. So US really doesn't take too much of the portion on the scores. So even though our scores are lower, if you have a better story, if you have a better passion, if you can express yourself better on your essays, your activities, and those kind of other stuff, then I think that's what makes you stand out. Yeah.
I think one of the things that my teachers would always tell me is that it doesn't matter what role you take on. It doesn't have to be big, it can be small, but the long-term engagement in that position is pretty important, and that, that how you present yourself and like the attitude that you have in terms of how you engage with your life, I think tends to show on the applications because of how of all the involvements you have. You have to write down the length, right? And so long-term engagement, I think, is one of the key things that seems to be prevalent in all kinds of admissions. My cousin went to med school. Long-term engagement was important there. In law school applications, that was also important. So even if you are doing the most, I guess, ordinary thing, to do it long-term makes it special, right? Like, I don't know, like doing some, foster care for the puppies. If you do it for 8 years, that becomes more special than you just engaging in 6 months. So I think long-term engagement in the activities that you're interested in would be an important factor.
Yeah, I really agree with. I think a lot of us have the assumption that some extracurriculars are good for college and some are just for you for fun, and like, oh, this medicine club, that's gonna help you get into this school. But I've talked to a couple of professors, and they really, I don't think they care that much about the name value of the extracurricular, because they know that we're going to a school where we're very privileged compared to the average student across the world. So even if we have all these fancy extracurriculars, that's kind of a result of our environment. But I think underneath the title, they kind of look at, there's a space to write a description and how long you've been doing it. I think that you can show your genuine interest through those descriptions. And if you haven't done something for multiple years, and you might be thinking, oh, I'm screwed, what do I do? That's really, it's helpful to do things for many years in a row, but if you don't have that, I think you can still stand out by doing things that you're genuinely interested in. And I guess the way that does show through your application is it can show through your essays, but essays are, I think one of the more difficult aspects of the U.S. Common Application, and there are a lot of students that have an idea of what the perfect essay should be, and what I can say is that the admissions officers can see straight through what you're trying to do. So if I could summarize it, it would just be try to be genuine, and that will make you stand out amongst 90% of applicants.
I do think that for U.S. colleges, it really is the essays. I think scores and extracurriculars is kind of the baseline of what you need. For my school specifically, UChicago is kind of known to have very quirky, unique essay prompts. So I think I'm not too aware of other colleges, but for my college specifically, it's really important to have a good fit because they really look for a specific type of person. So I kind of try to write the essay as if I was the type of person they were looking for, and I guess I was. I think I wrote the essay as myself, and I really tried to show interest in the school. I think that is really one of the key factors of getting in, is really doing your research in the school. I think one of my essays was a more quirky one, and one was more about why I want to get into this school, and that was more research based. So I think doing your research on the school, so watching a lot of YouTube videos on people who go to the school, or reading Reddit posts, or going to I think a lot of schools come to Korea these days and do they talk about their school and things like that. So talk to people. I think things like that will really make you stand out, and not say very generalized things that other applicants might say.
Thank you. And another question that I had was, so my little girl is only in 4th grade, and I can't imagine my little girl growing up and going to middle school and knocking on the doors of the faculties during the office hour, right? So if you were an introvert, for example, how would you visit the faculties during the office hour? What would be the conversational openers? And are there any approaches that you recommend to build a relationship with the teachers and the counselors?
I was pretty extroverted when I was growing up, but I would go to the teachers with the most trivial stuff, oh my gosh, the day is so pretty today, how are you? I would just literally visit the headmaster and be like, how are you? I'm just stopping by, are you having a good day? I'm writing an essay on this topic, do you have anything to say about it? I think the less pressure that you give. Like they're not like the teachers aren't there to judge you. Like at least at Chadwick, they're here to help you. So to treat them as like your ally and your support system would be a way to kind of like help like introverted students approach the teachers. You don't have to have like important matters to visit the teachers. I think it's more about the rapport that you build with the teachers so that when you do need help, you will be able to go to them and ask for them. And so any conversation I think is fine. Just be like, hi. I stop by Dr. Diaz's office like every time I visit Chadwick. I'm like, hi, how are you? And he's like, Lauren, welcome back. And I think, you know, that's what I learned at Chadwick, that the hurdles of like the room or like the offices where the teachers are isn't that high. And if you have a friendly and respectful attitude, no one is going to say no to you, you know? So just I would tell your child just to, I don't know, hold conversations with the teachers. I think that will lower the pressure for the children and that would help them grow the courage to actually go to office hours when they are in high school. So baby steps until you are able to run.
Yeah, I think it's quite scary to go up to a teacher and be like, oh, hey, can I take some of your time to talk about things? I'm not that good at doing that now. But I think I was able to build, you know, like a friendly relationship with teachers, mostly through, it happened more naturally, I think, through clubs or middle schoolers, they have MSA, or they have like middle school clubs and sports. And I think in middle school, I think that it'll probably just happen naturally, just with your club supervisor or, you know, your coach. Or yeah, I don't think there should be much pressure to actually have you know, it's their own office hours talking about serious stuff. I think it's very difficult for a middle schooler.
I was quite shy, I think, growing up. I'm like quite half and half. I'm like extroverted when I'm tired, and I'm shy when I'm like energized. So I think my advice for your child would be, I think my way of doing it was like I just like kind of lingered after class, and then like the teachers would just be like, why are you lingering? And then they would just like talk to me. And that was like how I would like build the relationship, and then like I would just kind of get like more comfortable with them, and like so I could like muster up the courage to go up to them during office hours. And also I was like at the school for a really long time, so naturally I felt more comfortable when I was at middle school, because then like I was at the school for like what, like 10 years already? No, like what, like 5 years already? So I had already felt comfortable in this environment, so even if it was a new teacher, like I didn't feel too uncomfortable with them, even if I was pretty shy.
안녕하세요. 저희 아이가 지금 10학년인데요. 만약에 다시 어퍼 스쿨대로 돌아가신다면 라이징 11학년과 라이징 12학년 여름방학에 혹시 어떤 일을 하고 싶으신지 여쭤봐도 될까요?
일단 저는 이제 9학년 올라갈 때는 스탠포드 캠프를 갔다 왔고 10학년 올라갈 때는 브라운 캠프를 갔다 왔어요. 이것도 누가 시켜서 한 게 아니라 그냥 사이트에서 제가 막 미국 막 하버드 대학교 이렇게 찾아가지고 여름 캠프가 있다는 걸 확인하고 혼자서 뚱땅 써가지고 붙은 거예요. 그래서 약간 저도 굉장히 무모한 아이였던 것 같아요. 그냥 이거 재밌어 보인다? 오케이 해보자. 부모님께 말도 안 하고 약간 돈 좀 내줄 수 있을까? 이렇게 하는 아이였는데 저는 서머 캠프 되게 좋은 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 그때의 기억들이 제가 공부를 좋아하게 만드는 데도 영향을 줬기 때문에 if you have children who are, moving up to high school, I would say like going to any like prestigious colleges or, college summer camps would be helpful in them kind of gaining interest in studying. I did end up going to SAT Hagwon. That's the only Hagwon that I actually went to. But you can't escape SAT or ACT, so I guess you would have to do that. But on top of that, I think doing a lot of reading was really helpful for me, because when you start the semester, you don't have time to do extra reading, right? So spending my summer doing some reading, doing some SAT, going to the US for a month to do a summer program, I think that was what I was looking forward to approaching my summer break. Yeah.
I think what I did was I rotted at an SAT Hagwon. But looking back, I think it's not the worst choice to do that, because realistically, it is a time where you do need to prep for SAT. But I think I wouldn't like rot at the Hagwon. I think I would take time off, because I think preparing for college, one thing that really helps is having diverse experiences, because while writing essays, it's really hard to like make up stuff that you haven't experienced before, and like having diverse experiences really helps you stand out from other people. Like maybe like going to a summer camp at Brown is like a diverse experience, obviously. So like maybe going on a trip with your family can be something, but like do something rather than like just sitting at a Hagwon. Maybe like go to a Hagwon like twice a week, and the rest of your days you can like go to a beach and like surf or something like that. I think that would be like a unique experience that you could write about on your essay and be like, oh, like one summer I really gave my all. I learned surfing and I studied, like, and you could write a whole essay about that. And I think like something like that could really help your child.
I wanted to talk about summer camps, but those two talked a lot about it. So I'll be more realistic. When the student is going out from 11th grade, 12th grade to summer break, I think, and the college counselors will tell this to students, that they technically should finish their early admission essays during the summer break, because first semester grade 12 is the toughest and has the most workload, extended essay, IB exam preparations, all those IAs, all those. So if the student tries to do those kind of school assignments with the essays, then I'm pretty sure that the essays will not have a better quality compared to when the student finalizes their essays during summer break, and so during the summer break. So therefore, I think the student must finish their at least like first draft or a second draft of their essays for the early admissions. Yeah.
네, 유익한 얘기 많이 들었습니다. 감사합니다. 저는 이제 그레이드 2 학부모인데 아이가 아직 어려서 이 중요한 시간을 어떻게 보내는 게 좋을지 항상 고민이 좀 되던데요. 돌아가신다면 아까 앞선 질문과 좀 비슷할 수는 있긴 한데 빌리지 스쿨에서, 미들 스쿨에서, 하이 스쿨에서 이런 시간들을 보냈으면 좀 더 좋았지 않았을까 하는 좀 조언을 좀 시기별로 해주실 수 있는지 궁금합니다.
일단 한국말로 이걸 말씀을 드리자면, 일단은 2학년은 최대한 많은 경험을 해봐야 된다고 생각해요. 그래서 학업적인 거 아니더라도 뭐 해외 여행이나 뭐 어떤 거든 이제 계속해서 중학교, 고등학교 올라가다 보면 아무래도 이제 학업적으로도 집중되고 친구들도 이제 좀 더 사춘기 올 때면 이제 뭐 부모님들보다는 이제 친구분들이 더 우선이 되기도 하고, 그래가지고 가족이랑 보내는 시간이 점점 더 없어질 것 같은데, 저는 어렸을 때 같이 엄마 아빠랑 같이 이제 뭐 미국도 가보고 유럽도 가보고 호주도 가보고 그게 저한테 되게 너무 좋은 기억으로 남고 너무 좋은 경험으로 남아가지고 그래서 일단은 최대한 아이한테 많은 시간을 같이 보내셨으면 좋을 것 같아요. 그리고 이제 어렸을 땐 그렇고 또 이제 책을 읽는 습관이 저는 제일 중요한 것 같아요. 솔직히 해서 저는 책을 좋아하지 않았어요. 저는 책을 많이 읽지도 않았고 그게 근데 사실은 그 원흉이 된 게 어렸을 때 딱히 책을 안 읽고 맨날 유튜브 보고 그래서 그런 것 같아가지고 어렸을 때 책 많이 읽히시는 거 정말 추천드릴게요. 네, 책 좋아하게 만드시는 게 최선입니다. 그 공부는 안 좋아해도 상관이 없는데 책은 좋아하게 해주세요. 네.
저는 제 부모님은 의사세요. 두 분 다 의사신데 그래서 이제 저는 한국 학교를 다니다가 체드윅에 온 케이스여가지고 어릴 때는 앉아가지고 너 미적분이 뭔지 알아? 이러면서 이렇게 수학을 시키셨어요. 근데 저 그것 때문에 수학을 싫어하는 애로 자라났거든요. 그러니까 초등학교 때는 강제로 공부를 시킬 필요는 없는 것 같고 저도 미국에 이제 갔을 때 저희 초등학교 벽면 한쪽에 있는 책을 다 읽었어요. 그리고 엄마랑 매주 도서관에 가서 3번씩 책을 빌려오고 그거를 매일 거의 한두 권씩 매일 책 읽고 맨날 디즈니 채널 보고 근데 그렇게 행복하게 살다 보니까 공부도 재밌네가 됐던 것 같아요. 자연스럽게. 그러니까 뭔가 내가 해내야만 해 하는 게 없고 이제 뭐 하지? 라고 생각하다 보니까 공부가 재밌어졌던 것 같아요. 그러니까 그렇게 자연스럽게 공부의 재미를 발견할 수 있게끔 너무 많은 거를 뭔가 시키거나 기대하지 않고 기다려 주시면 똑똑한 친구니까 잘 찾아갈 거라고 저는 생각을 하거든요. 그냥 많은 경험을 시켜주시고 그리고 약간 작은 성취들이 결국에는 큰 성취로 이어진다는 얘기가 있잖아요. 그래서 작은 성취들을 이렇게 자잘하게나마 계속 할 수 있는 경험을 준다면 혼자서 뭐든 내가 할 수 있는 사람이구나 라는 걸 느끼는 아이로 성장할 수 있다고 저는 생각을 해서 그러면 괜찮을 것 같고 중학교 때는 이제 슬슬 이제 에세이도 써보고 이제 공부도 조금 해보고 좀 어려운 것도 좀 들어보고 하는 이제 입문기를 거치고 이제 고등학교 때 이제 막판 스프린트를 4년 할 수 있는 그러니까 그 힘만 길러주면 괜찮을 것 같아요. 초등학교 때는 많이 뛰어놀고 책 많이 읽고 그러면 행복한 아이가 되지 않나 생각합니다.
감사합니다.
저는 I think for me 제 엄마 아빠가 제일 잘한 거는 저한테 아이패드를 안 사줬습니다. 근데 저 친구들 다 아이패드인데 저만 아이패드 없어가지고 그 시간대는 좀 아주 섭섭하고 I was really sad because all my friends had an iPad. But looking back now, I feel kind of old. I'm looking at all these kids. 지금 시대 애들 보면 뭐 식당에서 유튜브 보고 뭐 어디 지하철에서 기다릴 때 뭐 아이패드만 보고 있어가지고 그 아이패드 없는 게 좀 좋은 것 같습니다. 그래서 핸드폰도 시간도 좀 줄이고 어차피 학교에서는 컴퓨터를 좀 어차피 일하면서 많이 쓰게 되는데 뭐 아이패드도 없는 게 좋을 것 같습니다.
저는 동감하지 않아요. 저는 부모님이 다 하게 해주셨어요. 저 1학년 때부터 핸드폰 있었고 닌텐도 진짜 밤 늦게까지 닌텐도 하고 근데 그렇게 막 하다 보면 약간 절제해야겠는데 싶은 걸 느끼기도 하더라고요. 그래서 뭐 이렇게 해도 잘할 친구들은 잘하고 그러다가 그냥 믿어주시는 게 가장 중요한 것 같아요. 저희 부모님은 저를 이렇게 항상 네가? 이런 느낌으로 보셨는데 근데 또 저는 오기가 생겨가지고 내가! 이렇게 잘하긴 했는데 그냥 많은 경험을 하는 게 더 중요한 것 같아요. 아이패드 킷 요즘에는 약간 어떻게 피해가나요?
저도 집에서 TV 없이 자라긴 했는데 비슷하게 그래서 피할 수 없이 컴퓨터가 이제 생겼을 때 더 호기심이 생겨서 중학교 때 공부를 해야 될 때 이제 드라마 같은 거에 빠져서 공부를 못했을 때가 있었습니다. 그래서 오히려 약간 비슷하게 말했듯이 너무 막는 거나 약간 강제로 시키는 거를 절대 추천드리지 않고요. 한 가지 말씀드리고 싶은 거는 책 진짜 좋은데요. 저는 어렸을 때 책을 진짜 좋아하는 아이였는데 지금은 정말 좋아하지 않거든요. 근데 그 계기가 제가 3학년 때인가? 여름방학 때 부모님이 저를 그 이챕터스라는 혹시 아실지 모르겠어요. 이챕터스라는 그 책 읽는 학원이 있어요. 그 책 읽는 학원에 여름 내내 거기 앉아서 제인 오스틴 막 이런 거 읽으니까 너무 제 3학년인데 제인 오스틴 이런 거 읽으니까 너무 재미없는 거예요. 왜냐면 제가 그때 책을 많이 읽으니까 그때 그 리딩 수준이 높았어가지고 그때 수준이 그 정도가 나왔어가지고 막 How to Kill a Mockingbird 막 그런 거 읽고 있으니까 3학년짜리가 너무 재미가 없어가지고 제가 그때 책에 모든 흥미를 떨어뜨리고 다시는 책을 읽고 싶지 않다 이런 식으로 해가지고 이제 그런 거는 절대 추천드리지 않고 약간 아이가 이제 만화책이나 그런 것만 읽고 싶다고 해도 이제 별로 말리시는 거 추천드리지 않고 약간 그냥 자연스럽게 공부에 흥미를 가지는 방식으로 이제 키우시는 거를 추천드립니다.
Thank you very much. I'm stunned at the idea of a third grader reading Jane Austen. It's hard enough for adults. I think we might be out of time, but I think maybe our panelists will still be here to take other questions. We really appreciate you all coming, and especially really appreciate our alumni giving back to share with their experiences. You know, we are so proud of the students who go to this school, and then when they graduate and then they move on, then we're even prouder of you guys when we see what you're doing when you leave. So we so appreciate that you take the values of Chadwick out into the world, wherever you may go. And we really appreciate that you come back and share with our parents and with our students. So thank you very much. 감사합니다.